Photography allows you to capture a split second of time, something that your human eye is not going to be able to capture. I may take 10 to 15,000 pictures, and some people ask me, how do you go through all those pictures? Well, you learn real quick. Nope, 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 nope. And then boom, you hit that one picture and you say, wow, look at that.
That's incredibly valuable to helping tell the story of waterfowling, and that's priceless.
When you know you made this habitat and you're watching these birds come in, it's a special moment.
Ducks Unlimited Television is presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting.
Hello and welcome to Ducks Unlimited TV. I'm Ashley Ward. In this chapter of America's longest running waterfowl series, I joined DU's former CEO, Dale Hall, and current Director of Communications, James Powell, in Texas for an early season teal hunt. But that's not all we're after. Come along while we hunt alligators in the marsh and catch redfish on the bay. Our host is DU volunteer and wildlife photographer Todd Steele, a Texas coastal resident and expert hunter and fisherman. He shows us the flourishing wildlife habitat of the southeast Texas coast. Next on DUTV.
The area we're in Matagorda County. Matagorda was first settled, like much of Texas, along the coastline, and the reason was access. Where you're standing now in Matagorda County used to have what's called ephemeral wetlands. You'd have standing grasses, you'd have undulating ridges and runnels, lows and highs. In those lows, after every rainfall, would be perfect, crystal clear pond filled with aquatic vegetation. And then this rich soil was broken and turned predominantly into rice around the 1900s.
Texas is part of the Central Flyway. A lot of these teal will migrate through and stop on the Texas coast before they hop across the Gulf down to the Yucatan Peninsula. Historically, rice fields played a big part of their habitat base when those birds came down south.
If you go back 2 or 3 years ago where there was a drought and water couldn't be delivered to rice farms, it was a significant hit on the waterfowl population and the ability to overwinter pintails.
So at least along the coast, you kind of have this linear habitat. Once we step inland off the coast, not very far.
All right. All right.
We get both of them?
That's the way to start.
Good morning from the duck blind. Good job.
Where the Thunderbird Hunting Club Lodge is probably 20 miles inland from the coast as the crow flies, you start getting more of a broken habitat and landscape.
Well, Ducks Unlimited's focus in Texas, basically along the coast mostly, because that's where you can make the most difference in holding back the water and also providing habitat.
Good shot.
Good shot.
He's going to land in the blind with
All
it.
right, good shot.
What an easy retreat.
Woo!
This club is all about habitat and giving the ducks the best place they can. A duck pond is not just a piece of water on the landscape. It is so far removed from that. You got to have all the special ingredients. Teal and pintails, they like to eat seeds. Gadwalls, they like to eat aquatics. Canvasbacks, they like to eat sago palmweed.
Working with groups like Thunderbird and other private landowners, we can put complexes of wetland habitat on the landscape. These complexes are really important inland because there's not any publicly owned state land or like a federal refuge where you could do a large habitat project. We really rely on private landowners inland to put good habitat projects on the ground.
You know, the hurricane damage that we saw with Harvey is just really sad, but we need to find more areas that can drink the water up instead of having concrete to roll it off. You know, as a hurricane comes in, For every 2.7 miles that a hurricane travels across emergent marsh, the storm surge is reduced by a foot. And so when you think about the wetlands that we've lost and the ability of those marshes and wetlands to slow down those storms, it's a constant battle, but it's not one that we're willing to give up on.
Ducks Unlimited Television is presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting. Mossy Oak Shadow Grass Blades, the official camo of Ducks Unlimited. Browning Firearms, the best there is. And by Ducks Unlimited's Ducks Expo at Texas Motor Speedway, celebrating everything outdoors.
You know, when we found out that we were coming to Thunderbird Lodge to hunt with Todd Steele, I was super excited. You know, I kind of felt like I already knew him, you know, being an avid reader of the Ducks Unlimited magazine.
You know, Todd, as a manager and as a photographer, is a rare breed.
It's because he actually goes the extra mile to get those wonderful shots. And that really says a lot about not only him as a photographer, but also as an outdoorsman.
For every hour I spend taking a picture, there is probably 10 to 20 hours that's spent sitting in a chair, you know, culling through pictures. Same thing applies to management of ducks. Everybody thinks running a duck club is glamorous. For every duck that comes gliding down into our decoys, you know, you take that hour and you multiply it probably by 1,000 hours of getting that stuff ready. If you want to run a hunting club, get ready for some work.
He just has such a passion about it, way beyond the lens, and I really, really admire that.
These moist soil units are going to outproduce rice fields, you know, the bays, everything else. I think the ratio is probably 7-8 times the biomass is growing in this field as opposed to a rice field. And so it's basically the right manipulation of the environment to get the right stuff to grow and getting water on the right time, controlling your grasses. And so here is another great plant for ducks. It's called duck potato. And this will actually produce a seed that they'll eat off of that white flower. But more importantly, they'll yank this up and they'll eat all these tubulars on here. And they'll just, you know, it's kind of like celery. And actually, the Indians used to harvest this stuff and dry it. And this used to be one of the major staples of Indians. They used to cultivate this stuff.
Come on in, come on.
Now.
That was a pretty group.
And this particular property very easily could turn into a great subdivision with people on the beach and looking over the bay, and he elects not to. He elects to keep this for the wildlife. He elects to keep this what his dad wanted. He knows we're making the land better. You know, we bring in Todd Marandino. We just saved from Hurricane Harvey, came in and just decimated a road system that was protecting a marsh system. Mottled ducks do nest in that marsh, and mottled ducks are losing their habitat. And we didn't want that to turn into that out there. They had to put their own money in. I think they put probably $300,000 of their own money in to make this thing work. The cattleman knows that, look, your cattle are grazing in our duck ponds. You know, yeah, you may lose some of your grass periodically, but ultimately that grass is super concentrated with more nutrients than the grass that would be off to the sides.
And in working with those landowners, it's key that you do that. How can you help them be resource conscientious, which a lot of them want to be, but how do you make that cost effective for them? And then landowners may want to put more habitat on the ground.
Katrina, Irma, Camille, Hugo. Gulf Coast residents often mark their lives with the shorthand language of hurricane names. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey came ashore in southeast Texas, causing an estimated $125 billion in damages, with record rainfall amounts from 40 to 60 inches in less than a week. It flooded homes and businesses all up and down the Gulf Coast. Natural coastal habitats in Texas are vital to lessening the impact of high rainfall events like Harvey. Over time, the loss of these critical environments in this region has reduced the wetland water storage capacity by billions of gallons. All along the Gulf Coast, Ducks Unlimited is restoring and enhancing these key public land environments along with federal and state partners. DU is also helping to develop high-quality private lands habitat, increasing the ability of these wetlands to mitigate flood damage and improve water quality while providing benefits to waterfowl, wildlife, fish, and people. To find out more about how you can help DU restore the Gulf Coast, check out our website at ducks.org.
DU Insights is brought to you by Mossy Oak Properties. Find your favorite place at mossyoakproperties.com. DUTV is powered by Browning Ammunition, the best there is. Mossy Oak Properties, America's land specialist. Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs. And Plano Synergy and Zinc Calls, a champion in every call.
So while we went duck hunting one morning, James and Todd actually went fishing. And you know, James is a native Texan and he grew up red fishing along the Texas coast.
It's my favorite fishing to do, period. Anywhere, anytime. My son and I red fish on the Gulf Coast in Texas at least once a year, and then in Louisiana at least a couple times a year. It's a lot of fun. It's addictive for sure.
It's basically just a one big, huge nursery for just various wildlife, everything from crustaceans to shrimp, crabs.
Yeah, got it. All right, there you go. When you see the water here, the critical use of the water, the critical use of the landscape to produce all the groceries that these birds need, and all the other wildlife that benefits from that, that's really an amazing thing to be able to put on your boots and wade around in these marshes and impoundments and know that this is basically a grocery store for ducks.
So having land on the Gulf Coast area can have a lot of benefits, but it can also have a lot of challenges. And one of those challenges are the gators.
Can't thank the landowner, Gary Apelt. He donated a couple alligators, one to Charlie Shaver, who was a donor, to his son Nick, and then Ashley got to go out and shoot an alligator, and boy, what a special moment that was.
Be wrangling, wrestling the gator. Blood pressure's a little high.
We're driving the Polaris around the corner, and she's already nervous.
Holy cow. Oh my gosh!
It's a great flight!
That's what I feel like.
The line is rubbing across, going back and forth across the reeds. I said, there's your alligator.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. My mom is gonna die. I'm like shaking. You know, if you're not doing something outside that's getting your blood pumping, what are you doing, right? I can't tell if it's nerves or adrenaline or maybe both, or I feel like I might be having an outer body experience. I don't know.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Crack them now when you can.
Whenever they got the gator up and we were staring at each other eye to eye, I kind of just froze, like everything just kind of, you know, shut down. Oh my gosh!
We've seen about 30 or 40 alligators shot down there. I don't think I've ever seen anybody more excited about shooting an alligator than Ashley.
Here we go.
Being able to experience something new in the outdoors is always fun. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter when you get started in something. There's nothing like it.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yes, girl. Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I'm trembling.
I would be.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you.
A lot of people have trouble hitting teal, and it's not really for the reason they think they're having trouble. Teal are not really that fast. They seem fast because they're small, and they take us by surprise, and they're in and out of the decoys and gone, and it leaves us chasing, trying to catch them with our gun barrel, and it seems like a really fast shot. It's not. If you can see teal coming, and that's the trick, you get your gun out in front of them, they're easy. Be ready to come up shooting. And we've got kind of a teal shot set up here. Low, just like a teal, buzzing the decoys. The shots you usually wind up taking are close over the decoys. And at that range, you know, it's an optical illusion. They're small, they look like they're going fast because they took you by surprise. You think you have to lead teal a lot, you really don't. You can shoot right at the head, right at the beak, you can make the shot. You just have to be ready to make it.
DUTV is brought to you by Native Nurseries, hand-selected, hand-grown plants for wildlife. Higdon Outdoors, quality, customer service, innovation. That's Higdon. Biologic, scientifically proven wildlife products. Closed captioning for Ducks Unlimited Television is brought to you by Mossy Oak Bottomland, the official timber pattern of Ducks Unlimited.
Often one of the first hunts of the year for waterfowlers is early season teal. The weather's likely going to be warm, so that's going to require a few extra precautions and training for your retriever. In many areas, venomous snakes and alligators may be prevalent, so keep the dog under control. Steady to wing and shot, no release without being commanded, and solid on recall. Let's establish an opening day pre-checklist. First, steady to wing and shot. Used a lot of denials and honoring other dogs working. Tune up on whistle stops and casting. Teal come in fast and furious, so several birds may be down at once. The rule here is to pick the wounded birds first, then the longest bird to the shortest bird. Here Deke picks the longest bird and returns. Then he picks the bird that is about to be blown away by the wind. The shorter birds come later. Here, handling skills pay dividends. The retriever's job is game recovery, bringing back birds that would otherwise be lost. Handling becomes important for the safety of the dog and to make sure that no birds are left behind.
Duck Dog with Mike Stewart is presented by Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs.
I'm not unique in giving up things so that I can be there to do the job for conservation. But what we have to understand is why we do that. We do it so that other families can start to have a real value in their family that brings a wholesomeness and a purity that we've lost in too many families across the country.
This is my philosophy. There's givers and takers in the world. I look upon the hunting club as giving back to nature, giving back to the club members. I look at photography kind of the same way. It's giving back, showing people things that they're not going to see.
Ultimately, education of people who, some are sportsmen, some will never be sportsmen. With the education, you can just exponentially expand the knowledge out there in the communities of people who will get engaged for a variety of reasons.
We work with a lot of landowners. There's some in Matagorda County that just like a lot of habitat, kind of like Dale mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of different wildlife on these wetlands, and they just like the diversity of habitat on their properties. They may not even hunt, but they build habitat.
What I'd like to see in the future is photographers give to wildlife. Just don't go out there and capture it. There's a reason why these birds are concentrated in areas which are getting limited, more and more, less and less habitat out there.
Look at the colors, golly. Something that I've mentioned before is the investment that Dale Hall has, not only in this organization, but also the staff. And I've been working for Ducks Unlimited for 5 years, and I've known Dale for 5 years and really have had a close relationship with him. In that time, I was able to talk to him about my future with Ducks Unlimited and kind of the vision that I saw for myself.
Not too many people get to, I believe, feel the joy and satisfaction that I'm able to feel, not of what I've done, because I really haven't done anything. I believe that. I think the team that I've been on in my career has really made the difference.
That meant a lot to me, the fact that he took the time to ask me what my goals were, what my vision was. You know, you don't really get a lot of that with CEOs in big organizations and companies. He's not doing it because he feels like he has to. He's doing it because he's genuinely interested. He wants to see what he can do to help you. But, you know, just the fact that he took the time to invest in me, it really means a lot.
So the one thing that I think is important to remember is that sacrifices are made for a reason, and that reason is for good, so that others can enjoy what we've been able to enjoy. When you truly love something, you want others to know about that too.
I think you'll agree that the Texas coast is a top waterfowl hunting destination and more. Special thanks to Mr. Charlie Shaver from Exalta for visiting with us and sharing his commitment to Ducks Unlimited and coastal conservation. DU's work on the Texas coast continues in earnest. Together with your help, we know with hard work, this vital waterfowl and wildlife habitat will be restored and conserved. Thanks for joining us, and see you next week on DUTV.